All right, that happened, and we started the show, Jazz Cabbage Cafe, and we started off with Deb Young and Adam Brook joining me, and I know that we're going to see Rick Thompson and some others before too long, but we'll get started with this crew, formidable enough. Here's Rick. And added to the list, Rick. Let's check out our incredibly awesome sponsors. So, in terms of Botanical Company, we might hear from Russ toward the end of the show for a minute. Russ Chambers, the CEO of Carbidex, which is the umbrella company over the Botanical Company. It was just recognized by the Lansing Chamber of Commerce, I believe, or the Michigan Chamber of Commerce as an up-and-coming top 50 company to look out for, and he's going to be at with a lot of the other team from Franklin Fields and Botanical Company and BioBiz and so forth to be recognized for it.
Jamie, they're the only cannabis company to receive that recognition too, isn't that right?
Yeah, it's really cool. He's really excited about it. I want to just recognize that because he's appropriately so very happy about this going on tonight. So good for Russ, and looking forward to hanging out with him a little bit this week up at the MICIA conference too. And also Botanical Company recently supplanted Loom as one of the sponsors for the Dunesville, formerly Dune. I went there when it was Dune Grass, but Dunesville Music Festival. And Adam was in on it, but as everybody could imagine, when they put out the word that Loom was a sponsor, the reaction wasn't all that incredibly pleasant by those who've been kind of watching this whole thing go down. So
I seem to be getting some grief because I opened my mouth.
I saw a little bit.
I mean,
but for those viewers that aren't familiar with the background, Loom is one of those companies in Michigan that's being boycotted by caregivers because they support a trade association that's suggesting massive changes to Michigan's medical program to reduce the number of patients the number of plants sick people can grow, and the number of plants that the caregivers that service them can grow. So,
yeah, they also potentially they're believed to be the catalyst for getting law enforcement involved in some small transactions at like a grocery store or something like that.
Right. So I'll go back even further. The reason we don't support Loom is because they are Bell Tire family, and Bell Tire actively worked against us in the election, the ballot initiative process. Mm-hmm. So they're bad players from the get. And, the reality is they also aren't coming to the community with anything. It's not like you can go to Bell Tire, buy 4 tires and get so they're just not, if you ask me, they're just not good players. So.
The dogs agree with you, Adam. I will say, too, that Loom now has 20 retail locations spread across Michigan. They just announced that. And they were one of the very first to work deals with some of the Native American groups in Michigan as well. I think some of the Native American groups now regret the decision.
Well, I know for sure.
I'm not able to speak from them, and I'm not trying to because that would be wrong.
It would be. But I was in a meeting, was told that by some people directly involved that there's some disenchantment with some of the promises and some of the expectations and things like that of Loom, and they
imagine that white people
not satisfied,
not keeping their word to the natives once again, making us look bad.
Well, I mean, there's, as Rick pointed out, we'd be a little careful because there are some details and people have to have their sides of the story and that kind of stuff. But that was what was reported to me. I mean, that is true.
Yep. And we've been joined now by Kevin Spitler from Toledo Hemp Center, and also Jim Salame from Ohm of Medicine, and also the Decriminalize Michigan movement. Welcome, gentlemen.
And the Entheo show. And so we're going to talk to Kevin in a minute. Of course, part of a great show coming up, and she can chime in on anything else that we're talking about now. And I am kind of excited to connect with Kevin. It's been a little while to hear about what's going on and everything. And he was a big part of some early days of the dispensaries and stuff like that here in Michigan. It was kind of an innovator in some of those approaches, and we'll talk about that. But last week, I just want to point out we had Barton Morris on, who was representing Judith. And
Judith Pontius, Salame caregiver, 80-year-old.
Yep. And he brought us up to stuff. And he did a great job. There was a subsequent hearing. I watched it on Zoom, but I attended in Ann Arbor for the rally, and we were going to be in person until they. And I don't think they orchestrated that just not to have people in there. I think it was scheduled to be on Zoom all along. But Barton did arrange to go down to Ohm and do it. So I sat in the lobby of Ohm, or the inside of Ohm, inside the lobby on the couch, and was on Rick's show, 420 Post, giving them a update on what was going on down there. And I want to explain it to people because there was lots of press there, but most of them got it wrong.
They always do.
And this is just some complexity, in her story. But so it was 2015. Ypsilanti Township put this policy in place. Even back then, I was trying to work with the ACLU and stuff to do something about it. But anyway, nonetheless, they kept it, even through some really stupid. Even through some good court rulings that totally contradicted their stupid policy. They just kept it there anyway. But
policy locally to restrict caregivers.
Yeah, and saying that it was based mainly on odor issues, that the noxious fumes would, do something to somebody if they come by and, get in their way or something. The way they inferred it was disingenuous.
Were there any actual noxious fumes, or just this?
Well, you can view it as it's just irritating or bothersome or something like that. And somebody
were there actual fumes that were reported, or was this
just
There was okay. So there was one complaint. Now, just to contradict that a little bit and to put in perspective, maybe what's going on here. Her neighbor next to the grow house showed up at the last Ypsilanti Township meeting and made it clear to our group that they've never smelled anything coming from her house. But regardless, there was one complaint. Instead of being met with a code officer, it was met with 5 cops. She did then get a full-on ventilation system put in. There was never any complaints about that, but then they kept on pushing toward the violation of the plant count for the ordinance. And the ordinance is you can be a caregiver, but you still have to max out at 12 plants. Obviously, it doesn't work for everybody. Wasn't working for her. Nobody disputed that what she was doing for herself and her patients was outside of state law at all. In fact, the sheriffs who went to her house confirmed that part of it. This is just all about their policy. As we pointed out to the trustees the last meeting, maybe a woman following state law, not causing any problems, a good citizen, being persecuted, wasn't the intent of the language, at least for some people. But I think for some people it was just anything they can do to keep growing for whatever their reasons are from happening in their township, NIMBY for some reason. So what happened is the hearing for Judith a few days ago was a show cause hearing to explain why she hasn't followed the court order. Now, her case has been exhausted through the courts as far as whether or not the township can tell her to reduce her plant count. Law at large is not resolved in this matter, but for her specific case, she can do no more. So they had the hearing, and at that time, the judge was informed the plants are now all of hers. She's growing just as a patient, and the extra plants beyond 12 are what are reasonably necessary for her to have an uninterrupted supply of her medicine, per the MMMA. So that issue and the fact that the township is saying that her grow house is not her residence are the 2 remaining issues for the judge. If the township fails in proving that it's not her residence, which many people believe it'd be very difficult to prove that it's not her residence. It's her address is on her license. People can have more than one residence. You don't have to live there all the time for it to be your residence. So that's a difficult task for the township. I don't think that one succeeds. And then it's a matter of her attorney, Barton Morris, explaining the formula, the math that goes into the 55 plants and her uninterrupted supply of medicine. And he's done that for other people throughout the years in Section 8 defenses, and it's a legitimate thing. And we'll have to see what happens, but everything went well as it could under those circumstances. For Judith. Some of the news reports were still that she was still going to have to take down her plants and all this other kind of stuff. So, not the case at the moment. Go ahead,
Let me put a finer point on this too. The person we're talking about, Judith Pontius, is 79. She'll be 80 soon. She is a 30-year employee of Ypsilanti Township itself. The building that she worked at for 30 years is the same building she's being persecuted in right now. And the fact is, Judith is her case dates back to 2016. Now, even in 2021, if you can take the law and look at these recent court cases and decide that she is in violation of what the courts now believe to be the letter of the law, back in 2016 when they passed that ordinance, it certainly was not the understanding. It wasn't the letter of the law. It was not the way that people did things. And Ypsilanti Township was really considered to be one of the most heinous violators of caregiver rights, which were established in 2008 by the Voter-Directed Initiative for the Medical Marijuana Act. So they were wrong when they passed this. They've had several opportunities along the way, according to Barton Morris, to ditch this case and refused to do so. He even asked them to come to an agreement on some kind of a plea arrangement for this particular thing, and they said, no, we're going all the way. Why would a township really want to punish a 30-year employee of the township, an 80-year-old woman, and someone who's lived in that location for a long time and enjoyed her time there?
That's something that I never knew that. That's new information to me, that she was a 30-year employee at the township. It sounds
that doesn't change how stupid this is.
But this is not the township. This is the township's lawyer. And unfortunately, I don't believe that the township commission is behind this. I don't believe that the people are behind this. I think this is a vendetta from the township lawyer.
A lot of people think the supervisor is kind of a part of it too, but the lawyer for sure. I'm just telling you what feedback I get from the locals.
I wouldn't be surprised that the township supervisor has an issue with a former employee. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I've only met her online and I've only seen her on this case. But if she behaved at work the way she behaves on this case, she's something to be reckoned with. And I wouldn't be surprised if people at the township hall didn't care for her. Yeah. She probably did a really good job and probably was on top of things.
Yeah, it's like.
But I think it's just the fact that she was growing and they don't care who she is.
But didn't it start with like an ordinance violation, like a nuisance ordinance violation?
Somebody made a complaint of an odor.
If you have overgrown weeds, they give you an X amount of time to get your property
that didn't happen.
It's the same as smell. This is what I'm saying. That's not the way this happened. But that's how it should have come down.
Right. It should have been a code enforcer.
It should have been a code enforcer, told her what the issue was, which somebody did, and she corrected the issue. That should have been the end of it. The same. Should have been the end of it. Your weeds are too high, or you've got too much.
She did not know that the local ordinance was in place. The police said, "Hey, can I look at your plant?" They didn't have a warrant. All they did was ask. She gave them her permission. Now she knows that she shouldn't have now, but she also was thinking, "I'll just get this over with. They'll see that I've got less than my plant count. They'll see whatever." And that's not how it works. Don't do anything you don't have to do with police. Let's get that lesson out again.
Never let them in.
And that that probably would have solved it. But you're right. The response shouldn't have been 5 cops. The response should have been a code enforcer.
Let me just take issue with the way you just described it, though, Jamie. They didn't just ask to see the plants. When 5 cops are on your doorstep saying, "Show me your plants," I don't think that's asking. I think that's intended to intimidate someone into giving a yes when they know they should say no. That's not just an ask. That's an abuse of power. I see Kevin nodding his head because this is a familiar story to those of us, Debra, Adam, those of us that have been around for a long time in this industry. We've seen people abuse this way before.
Yeah, and it looks like they're ready to kick your door in and shoot your dog when there's 5 of them standing on your porch like that. So
we can do it the easy way.
Which is why you don't open your door.
That's why you don't open the door.
That's what they're there to do.
And we can go that far back too and say she shouldn't have done that. But the same thing when people are confronted with several police and they're using their leverage and all their tactics and being intimidating, it's difficult for a lot of people to stay grounded and to know their rights, and a lot of people do succumb at that point.
It's why it's on 5 cops.
Now she's been fighting for this ever since. We don't need to that's true what this has happened, but she's not a weak person or a negative person or bad person. She's been fighting for caregiver rights. She said on the news she'll go to jail for 90 days if she has to.
She's in the same boat many people were in 2008 and 2009, 10, when they thought they were doing the right thing and the police knocked on their door and they invited them in and they showed them the signs on the door that they posted on their grow that said, you know, I can't let anybody in here. And the cops said, yeah, but we got to do an inspection and count your plants. And why anybody thinks a cop can count. I noticed they sent 5 to Judith's because they were going to need more fingers. But
they needed all the fingers. Huh?
Fingers and toes.
Cops count their plants, and then invariably they're in violation of something, and it hemmed up a lot of people in the past. And you know, I would have the attitude of it's real simple. I know the game they play. Get a fucking warrant.
Yep.
The judge signs them. They sign them. It's nobody's business. It ain't hard to get a warrant. You can lie. Go tell those lies. Get your warrant and come back.
Not being aware of the law, though, that's tripped up so many people. We can go back to Bob Redden. Bob Redden, legitimately the very first case in Michigan for the medical marijuana era. And that was because Bob thought, but it actually said. And there was a whole lot of people out there that thought, even though things actually said. And what Adam's saying is correct. We thought that our card, we thought that the sign on our door, that was our armor. This was our protection. We were told we couldn't get messed with. And, you know, some people got really in trouble thinking that they had armor when they were actually naked.
Hey, now. Can't go outside naked.
Naked.
Don't open your door if you're naked. I know that.
Yeah.
Hey, James. James, if you're listening, we do need to talk soon.
Okay. He is listening.
English James.
Awesome guy.
Yeah. Luxury Loud.
What me about that whole thing with Judith is just how long it's gone on. And that's what just doesn't make sense to me with the progress that we've seen with cannabis. We're trying to get people out of jail now.
So Jim, you remember I said that they didn't change their ordinance, even though the courts ruled on whether or not they can do that at that point. They kept it in place. She won. She had a court of appeals ruling that won via Turbeek.
They fought it.
They fought it. It was going to the Supreme Court. DeRuyter was in there at the same time, so they agreed. Let's just see what DeRuyter says, and roll with that. So DeRuyter said yes. You know, as long as it's not unreasonable, or if it's within reason, or whatever specific wording is, you know, there's can be some zoning and some things that the township can do with caregivers. But the Court of Appeals ruling was really bad. I mean, it said, oh yeah, they can call it a home occupation. They misunderstood. They can do whatever you want. You know, it wasn't whatever you want. It's what's reasonable. And then nobody challenged that language back to the Supreme Court. I think we would have found out that's not what they meant. But anyway, so that's why she lost. It's an unpublished opinion that pertains to Judith only, but people can now use it and point to it as, you know, support for this stupid idea that they can do this stuff.
And Jen Bronson points out in chat, if you're not reading chat, tonight at 6:30, people are meeting at the Ypsilanti Township trustee meeting to ask them to change the ordinance. They've been successful of asking for changes in ordinance language in Flushing Township. Jen's been very successful with her group there. Hopefully, I just think Ypsilanti Township is a closed door at this point. Even if they change their ordinance, I think that we would only help people going forward. I don't think it would help Judith's case, but still, we should want those changes to take place to protect caregivers. Hi, Jackie.
So coming up later, we are going to talk to Kevin. We have Kevin hanging out here. Looks like there he is. Pop back on for a second. We're going to talk to him. Kevin, you're welcome at any point to chime in on what we're talking about now, although we'll get more into like your story and some other stuff
absolutely
soon. And then Uncle Stoner, Bobby West, is going to come back on today. We had him on, I think, a couple weeks ago or something, and like the connection kept on going out. It just didn't work out. And unfortunately,
sad news to talk about today.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's been another loss in the community. Frenchy Cannoli, who was considered a hash guru, influential to many, and you know, I know that Adam knew him too, and so we'll get a little background on him and give some tribute. And go ahead, Adam.
I wanted to bring up a story that I saw on the Safer Mish list that totally flabbergasted me. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, about the Canadian producers destroying 500 tons of cannabis since 2018.
Yeah, and that's not even the right figure. If you read the article, Adam, it says that's only unpackaged flour. If you add in the packaged flour, it was significantly more than that.
And
right, instead of government cheese, why not? You know,
I'm just fascinated because that's coming here. It's coming, and you know, when my buddies in Amsterdam told me that they're major players in the Canadian market, and they told me they're pulling out, I was shocked. I mean, you know, you're working 3-4 years, and now you're finally pulling out. Well, it's because the Canadian market's pretty messed up, and nobody's making any money, and
it's overproduced.
And that's what's coming here.
You have 3 years of cannabis warehoused, 3 years of national supply already warehoused. The cannabis Adam's talking about was trashed for a variety of reasons, but some of it because it passed expiration date. It had just been on there so long they couldn't sell it any longer.
Dude, 3-year-old cannabis would be nasty as fuck. I'm sorry.
Can you imagine?
So you'd be surprised.
Still get high from it.
If you're not,
you'll fall asleep
but it'd be all dry.
Yeah, the mold will get you high.
But you need to look at your metric tags if you're buying shit in metric, because you'd be surprised. I mean, I know dispensaries that have a couple years worth of weed put away in the vault.
Yeah, I've seen it, but it looks terrible. It looks terrible. So I don't
require them to put on like the expiration on the menus that you order on. I think that would be a great way to go, just so people have that information. I don't want to buy something old, you know.
It's a label guideline anyway, you know. I mean, like a new Perky bag when they came in their store. I mean, it's all typical guideline for labeling anything, you know. So definitely an expiration date is helpful.
I'm told it's a very aggressive market for flour right now. There's not a lot of flour sold up, so there's a lot of purchasers and not a lot of supply. I know that we have in later 2021 just hundreds of thousands of square feet of cultivation space coming online with the expansion of some of the current gardens and some new people that have been licensed. But right now, my people tell me that in the regulated market that it's kind of a shortage. So I imagine a lot of that old stuff is making its way into pre-rolls or it's becoming edibles, right? We never get to find that information out as consumers, do we?
Yeah, you do. Cut your shit open before you smoke it, re-roll it. You can find out.
You can see
I
it.
check them out. I mean, it's amazing what's put in a pre-roll.
Caregivers, at least on some kind of limited basis, being able to supply the market, of being able to meet the commercial standards. You know, those times when we dip in inventory from the larger places, you know, we can keep costs under control more, keep more diversity and quality in the market. And it was a good idea and it worked. I just kind of wish we would have rolled with it a little bit more. But the whole reason that Canada doesn't give the stuff away to everybody who uses it and destroys it instead is try to keep this market alive. You know, otherwise they would just do that.
People have oftentimes said that Canada, the Canadian market, which matured before the American market because their legalization program happened before us, they're like 2 years ahead of Michigan. The things that happened in Canada, they had problems rolling out dispensaries, and then 2 years later we had problems rolling out. They had a problem with municipal acceptance of cannabis businesses, which continues forward. We still have that problem too. But the oversupply that Adam's talking about is a very real issue. A lot of suppliers talk about Oregon. And for those listeners who aren't familiar with the Oregon example, Oregon had a very lackadaisical regulatory process when it came to licensing people to cultivate cannabis. So they had just a huge explosion of participants, and then they had an explosion of supply. And then prices dropped dramatically. A lot of small businesses completely went out of business and lost their shirts. A lot of families lost their life savings because they got into the cannabis game with the wrong regulatory scheme at the wrong time. But more importantly, though, that's still a state that has an oversupply situation, and people are always concerned that Michigan is going to go that direction. Our regulatory program doesn't really allow that kind of expansion, and we don't have the kind of municipal support that they had in Oregon either. So I doubt that we're going to go in that direction as far as that goes, but we will get to an oversupply point, no doubt.
Hey, so I go ahead, Debra, you say something. Who's probably going to say something? I forgot to mention before that last week we also had Res Town and and from DNA Genetics and from Global Alliance Cannabis Commerce, and we talked about the Schumer legalization bill. We're going to talk a little bit more, not necessarily today, but more about that soon, because now there's more known about it, and some of the stuff I didn't want to see kind of showed up in there. Although there's also some good stuff. I mean, there's some stuff to talk about. So we'll get into that maybe toward the end of the show, but maybe next week we can look more about it.
In regards to like Michigan and overstock, being down here in Ohio, a lot of people are going to Michigan, so it's got a really pretty good solid amount of people feeding that as well. I mean, Toledo, Ohio's dispensary is the worst performing dispensary in the state of Ohio, and there's a reason for that. So I think that Ohio is definitely is helping, with the ability to be able to go to Michigan, helps kind of maybe thwart that oversupply a little bit anyway.
Kevin, 10% of Michigan's sales in the regulated market are to out-of-state participants, according to the Marijuana Regulatory Agency. Now, that's a lot down in South Indiana and Ohio, but it's also some to the west. But I'm going to believe out of that three, Ohio's the big pot purchaser right there.
And if you go up to like Morenci, Michigan, which is basically right on the line down here, I mean, it's literally 20 feet, I think. They got like 4 or 5 shops there, I think, and you go up there, and I bet 9 out of 10 cars in them lots are Ohio, and it's definitely been huge because Ohio is so overregulated too.
Has there been any reports of the police just sitting there waiting for somebody, obviously from Ohio, to go up there and come back down? And
yeah, there was actually a news story a little while back. The Ohio sheriff, forget what county it is right there. You can literally from the state line watch people pull out of the parking lot and know exactly where they're coming from. And that's what he did for a whole day. And so they haven't messed with them since then. So I don't know whatever went down with that.
I mean, it's a little rough. So, and then I just want to point out too, before we start talking to you a little bit more directly, Kevin, about this and some more and a bunch of other stuff, because I'm interested in letting people know about some of the history you've been involved in and finding out what you're doing now. So later on in the show, we might get Russ coming on to talk a little bit about his experience with the getting ready for the awards thing tonight, and if he's got time, he's going to. And then Anthony Freed's going to check in and show us the venue that he's setting up for this summer to have a mini concert series, and just talk to him a little bit too. So with that, Kevin, are you ready to start getting into a little bit more in-depth conversation?
Absolutely.
Let me break Kevin down for our listeners.
Sure.
So he's one of my favorite people to talk about. Kevin Spitler, in the early days of the pirate dispensaries, there were few of us. There were Oakland County, there was Washtenaw County, and there was the Kalamazoo area. And MedJoint was one of those rocking places in a zone where dispensaries were not tolerated. MedJoint somehow was able to carve out a space and be successful. And along the way, they created a ton of new patients for the Medical Marijuana Registry database. They satisfied a lot of sick people's needs for free. I remember loaves and fishes. I remember reporting regularly on these huge hauls of food that would be gathered at the MedJoint location and then hauled down to Loaves of Fishes, which is a food. And they would just take pictures with them. The CEO would come out and hug Kevin because they were one of the largest contridributors. And in fact, the MDA
6 tons in a year.
Yep, the muscular dystrophy walk. MDA MedJoint was a proud sponsor there too. So not only
it was actually on the old Jerry Lewis telethon. It was the Show of Strength now, is what it's called.
Yeah,
for that event.
For all those years and for all of the ways that you supported us, and then for other reasons, you had to leave the state and be successful down in Toledo, pioneering hemp products. But welcome to the broadcast, Jazz Cabbage Cafe hero, Kevin Spitler. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been a while. I feel like a newbie at this point.
What's up, Kevin?
Hey. How you been?
Good, man. It's been a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
Great to see you.
It's been a heck of a journey. All the way from when I was in the Kalamazoo days. I mean, I used to drive across the state to go visit Rick over there, and it's been different now. Actually, I've been in Florida for a couple years. I just moved back to Michigan back in October. I actually went down to Florida and opened a store, a CBD hemp store down in Florida at the Villages, the biggest retirement community in the world. And I think if a lot of us remember back, in Kalamazoo days, I was a big supporter of the ability to use medical marijuana without getting high. And that was a good way of getting grandma and grandpas to come in my store. And I felt that was improving the acceptance of in the people's eyes that are watching my store or whatever. So, that same sense has really continued my journey over the last 8 years. And now Toledo Hemp Center has been open 8 years. We do a lot of community benefit, just like we did up in Kalamazoo. Same mindset.
Kevin, you look tan. I mean, you look like you just came from Florida, man. I'm just gonna say it.
It's been a few months, but I do tan pretty easy, and I do still spend a lot of time outdoors. And besides the last week, there was a lot of sun around, so definitely.
So Toledo Hemp Center is great for their community because of the ways that you help the people around where your building's at. And I know you're smiling, but I'm going to talk about it. You guys do the blanket drive. You do you help the little kids. You have the barbecues where you work with the fire department and you have this great big barbecue, and it's all based around the hemp center. And they all accept the fact that hemp is part of their lives because you bring betterment to your community. Talk about some of the social engagement you've done in Tonytown, man.
Yeah, I mean, 8 years ago, I started out with 12 products, and I'd see a customer once every couple of days or so. Now I have over 400. And like you mentioned, August 14th, we do an annual, except for last year, we obviously had canceled it, but annual community cookout for the kids, where we raise awareness for hungry kids around Ohio, specifically Toledo. But 1 in 4 children in Ohio have no idea where their next meal is coming from. So that's something that we've really been taken to for the last 8 years. And so we have it coming up where we actually have a big cookout. We do it every year. This year we're doing 400 burgers, 400 hot dogs. We'll grill it up and tons of sides, and we basically give it to anybody that shows up for free. And then we do it book bags. 5 years ago, we did 15 book bags full of school supplies that we gave to the kids that showed up to the cookout. This year, we're planning on doing 200. So it shows, what the acceptance of what we're getting in regards to working with the community over and over and over and over again. People start to, get that desensitization, I guess. And that opens the avenue for the acceptance of everything else, including marijuana itself, because then they start to realize, well, there's more beyond it. Just getting high, it's not a big deal now because I'm using it I get it, So I think it's helping Toledo become one of the more friendly marijuana cities in the state of Ohio.
With your outreach, Kevin, I think it's also important to notice that, it's that compassion that you're showing to people that also turns that stigma around that people have on cannabis because of your giving nature and how much you're providing to people. And a lot of people, I think, have a stigma that doesn't come very often with cannabis users. So
yep, absolutely. And we're the go-to of every local news media, and I have to credit a lot of that to Mr. Thompson here, because he taught me what I know now about contacting media. But so we're the go-to in regards to anywhere from hemp to marijuana, and in most cases they come to us, which is pretty neat. But the ability, the store itself is what's nice about it. It gives you us that tool to, like you mentioned, to get that community, outreach and stuff like that it typically I might not be able to do if I was working at just a little factory or something. But we bring a lot of businesses together. The cookout, we have I think 8 different sponsors this year. We've raised over $3,000 to put an amazing event on, so we're really excited about that. And then, like Rick mentions, we go right into the blanket drives and stuff like that because it helps. And nowadays, I think it's really important to bring that and show that, that people do give a crap.
we talk about breaking the stigma, and I'll continue to come back to the way that you help break the stigma here in Michigan. Talk about loaves and fishes, because the numbers of the poundage that you contributed through MedJoint, just staggering. Talk about it, man.
Yeah, that was a pretty awesome time. I still get the memories of all that. And we literally, I think over the 1 year, every month we would drop off food down there and at the Loaves and Fishes food pantry, and every month it seemed to get bigger and bigger. And we were doing 1,200 pounds a month here and there, and then it got up to 3,000 pounds. And yeah, we ended up dropping off over 6 tons, which is 12,000 pounds of food in that 1 year. And that we were one of the only last standing Kalamazoo County dispensaries for 6 months. You know, they raided, I believe, every store in Kalamazoo County and basically simultaneously. And the cops we were having patients show up at my store saying that the cops told them they're at least trying to do it right down there. So, you know, go see them, because they're like, well, where am I supposed to get my freaking medicine now? You know, and so, you know.
That's very cool. I didn't know that, man. I mean,
cops referred patients to your store because they said you were doing it right?
That's what they felt. That's from the patients coming in that night. And that was a pretty freaked out. I was waiting. I was waiting for them to come to my store.
They did put a lot of pressure on you, though.
They did.
I know.
Well, it was more like the township. I think I had issues with, you know, because I did go and meet with the Kalamazoo County prosecutor. I'd go to all the Kalamazoo County Democratic Party meetings, because that's what they were all Democrats back then. So visiting all that. Sorry about that, but you know, but the township, and you could not. They would not budge. You know, and I was.
What was the name of that little township too, next to Kalamazoo?
Ashtamo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Ashtamo Township.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you hear Judith's story about a township that really goes after somebody and just won't let it go, like a pit bull on a bone, that's a familiar and sometimes, you know, horrifying story to you, right?
Yeah, and I didn't really want to jump in on that, but yeah, I mean, and it was the lawyer. You know, I don't think that the actual board really gave a crap, but they were listening to everything that lawyer would say, you know, because they didn't want to lose their, you know, be sued or whatever happened, you know, blah, blah, blah. But you just had a really rogue lawyer that really had it out for us, you know, but when I closed down, it was really, I mean, it was meant to be because my mom was down here, you know, fighting cancer and stuff. So that's what brought me back to Toledo.
And when you came down to help Dot, your mom, you kept that spirit of activism alive, and when you started Toledo Hemp Center, but that wasn't easy either, was it?
No, the doctors, I mean, they had said 3 months to live, and you know, I still have my garden up north stuff, so I was bringing stuff down to help her, and she stuck around for 12 months. You know, it was terminal pancreatic cancer. It was bad, but she got to do all the holidays, you know, and this and that, and that's when she left. I found a way. I found the night of her funeral, or the night of her passing away. I'm sorry. I had the event at the Ohio Expo down there. You were there, I believe. I think Jamie, you might have been there as well.
I was there.
I think Ohio Marijuana Expo.
Sherry was there.
Cheryl Schumann, right? But
That's
that
right.
night I came across a vendor that came in from California, and they had these CBD hemp products. And my mind was a mess because I was trying to put on this event that we're all at, and my mom passed away that morning, you know. But they gave me this CBD tincture back then. It was like 9 years ago. And next thing you know, my anxiety just flattened right out, and I got up on that stage and said, well, I found a way to open a store here in Toledo, you know, and help other moms and dads and brothers and sisters. But I just wasn't going to get you high. I was just going to get you feeling good. And 8 years later, we're still here.
Right on. Hey, man, I want to.
So she's looking down on us. I mean, it's really, that whole store is inspired by her, you know. And so I know, you know, every single person we help is because of my mom. I know she's up there. You know, I know she's up there smiling down on us. So, absolutely.
And when you were in Kalamazoo, was she supportive of all that? Like the risk you were taking, all that stuff. I mean, what kind of?
I think one of the most exciting days of her life was when she got to come up and visit the dispensary. She was very supportive. It was different, but she was, explaining to her what we knew back then and how, was helping people. She became one of my bigger supporters of all of it, and
Nice.
And it was great. Like I said, when she came up to visit that store, when she walked in there and her eyes just lit up. Yeah.
So here's an important thing to point out too about that store, Kevin. You were the first one and it was with the Michigan Testing Authority and Ken Byer, but the first one to have a policy to have everything tested, and it was a unique type of testing. Although and it was actually really cool. It wasn't complete to do the stuff that you would need it to do for like all things now, but I want to point out when we have Jim here with us. Ohm did some really great work with Dr. Evan Litness and University of Michigan and a study and stuff like that. But what's lesser known is the one that we were involved with Dr. Dave Peters and Wayne State University when he was getting his PhD in medical sociology. He was able to conduct an early IRB sanctioned cannabis study, because it was through sociology department and not the medical department. The medical department people who were trying to do this would get denied.
It's a user survey, Jamie, right?
Yeah, he eventually said he was trying to get some other stuff, but the testing, had its limitations. And he eventually said that in places where people have the option to use medical marijuana instead of opiates, they will tend to try medical marijuana. Or, there was some high percentile of people choosing cannabis over other pain pills or something like that. It was really early test, and it was pretty vague, but important at the time. After that, the national study of the 25% less prescriptions and overdoses where cannabis is available, and those studies came out, and there was a really good one, of course, that Ohm and University of Michigan worked together on too. And, but Kevin helped get data for that. So did
we gave away so much weed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to go through some procedure online with the University of Michigan just to qualify to be able to provide studies for people to take. It was pretty elaborate. It was really interesting. I never knew about the Wayne State thing though. That's pretty amazing too. That was a IRB study. Yeah. Well,
Dr. Dave Peters, he was a lawyer.
Yeah.
He actually, unfortunately, lost his daughter at a young age and just decided to kind of change course in life and got into sociology, and then ended up getting a PhD in medical sociology. So.
I want to say he left all the teaching and stuff. I think he went and tried to chase into the cannabis industry. I haven't talked to him in several years, but
it's been a while for me too, and he was looking at that the last time I talked to him as well. So.
He was great.
Give that kind of insight. It certainly seems like a natural pairing, right?
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
We did a lot of things back then that are probably forgotten, even by the people that did them. We're talking about some of the early philanthropy that we engaged in. We support candidates for office. We helped clean up parks. Oh, so many different things. I remember Macomb Normal Highway cleanup. We had, I think, 45 people cleaning up a highway in Macomb County. It was just amazing.
We adopted a highway there in Kalamazoo County. Actually, 1 mile was in Kalamazoo County, the other mile was in Van Buren County, and so we actually was helping 2 different counties at the same time, which was kind of cool. But yeah, MedJoint 3C was right on the side of the road. It actually was there for a good 4 or 5 years after we even closed up.
Yeah, so many things that we've done. Mac was big at that time to
Mac
aggregate people together. Kevin and MedJoint was a part of that from the get. Yeah.
Michigan Association of Compassion Centers, right?
Yeah, sure was. We did a lot of good work back then. Not just lobbying for an end to bad things. When we sued Attorney General Bill Schuette to not let them violate our protection rights to release the records of medical marijuana patients, which were supposed to be confidential. We did a lot of great things, but some of the things I'm most proud of, helping that poor little girl who was terrorized by her neighbors and giving her.
She had what was the name of the disease?
Oh, I couldn't even remember.
Huntington's disease?
I think it was something worse than that, but her neighbors were just so vicious to her. And she'd been featured on a national show, and we sort of took her under our wing and had a big benefit concert for her where she received a giant teddy bear, and her family got a trip to Kalahari Water Resort, and there were some other benefits that we were able to give to her because of the donations from the industry. And that was all unregulated stuff. Nobody said you have to have a social equity license and that you're required to be a good guy in the community. We said, fuck, we live in this community. We want to be good people. Plus, we knew the value of breaking that negative stigma, and we were willing to invest dollars and hours into doing it. And most people nowadays don't have the hours, and they won't get the dollars.
Right, and I mean, no, I don't think I've seen any other industry where I see so much compassion out there. I remember when Flint had an issue, and I brought some water up to Rick and all them that were doing a collection. And I couldn't believe I showed up. They had the biggest wall of water I've ever seen, and it was an awesome event, and I continue to see that over and over.
The Bruce Leach night at the restaurant where we ate spaghetti and everything too. Yeah. Okay.
I made a movie out of that. That's called Flint Water Crisis: A Love Story. You can watch that movie on YouTube. It's about 8 minutes long. It's available right now.
This man's a pioneer. I remember when he put me in High Times, and that was a highlight of my life. I still have them articles on my wall. So.
Was that for the hemp story that you did, Rick? Yeah,
yep.
Perfect.
You sure did. Well, when I wrote The Sun Also Rises on Hemp for High Times magazine, and one of the things Kevin talked about was utilizing hemp to stop some of the agriculture runoff that creates this anoxic zone, this dead zone in the western end of Lake Erie every single year. It gets all this seaweed, the cyanobacteria, and nothing can grow, nothing can live there. It's a dead zone. You can't use the beaches or anything, and it's because of ag runoff. And Kevin's thought was to put a thick row of hemp between the agricultural fields and the ocean or the waterway in order to suck up some of that stuff and then have a crop that you could utilize, which I think is still a brilliant concept.
Yeah, I actually went in front of the Toledo Rotary Club down in here, and ex-governor Marcy Kaptur was there, and I stood up in front of all of them and explained all that, and I had a bunch of people just looking at me like, what is this boy talking about? And I handed out all these hemp-bound books to the ex-governor and everybody else in an attempt to educate him, and and that's one of the things that I've been really big about is connecting with the community, not only, but getting downtown and talking to the city officials here. And I would always invite them into the store and stuff. And so I could explain to them what we're really doing, because on the outside back then, 8 years ago, you just looked like a little pot shop on the corner, even though it said hemp, so, but yeah.
Hey, so are you have aspirations for getting involved in the Michigan industry? You said you moved back to Michigan.
Yeah, we're looking at that possibility right now. Monroe County hasn't quite opened up for anybody. I'd like to kind of stick it close to the store down here. One thing I learned about opening a store in Toledo, Ohio, and down in Florida, it ain't freaking easy taking care of both of them stores. So I think trying to stick closer to home might be the right thing to do for me. So we're just kind of keeping our eyes on the different counties and townships and such here. But we do have aspirations of opening some type of distribution store here.
Right on.
Wish it was a big pop behind me, but it's not.
Kevin, where are you at now?
I'm in Ottawa Lake, Michigan, which is about maybe 3 minutes from the state line. It takes me about 10 minutes to get to that Toledo Hemp Center, which is kind of nice right now.
Which state line?
Ohio and Michigan.
Okay, good.
It's basically just outside of Toledo, essentially.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like I said, Toledo loves Michigan's recreational, but yeah.
Tell you, I can recall. I'm sorry, Deb. Please go ahead.
I was just gonna say we used to drive to Toledo to buy cigarettes back in the day when cigarettes were like $40 a carton. Here, they were 20 there, and you go and buy like 10 cartons and take them.
And
home.
you could, and at 19, you could buy low alcohol beer there.
Yeah.
You have to be 21.
Little
We used
reciprocation. This is way back in the day.
When I was 16, we used to load up our cars with coolers and drive down to Sylvania just to buy Ben & Jerry's ice cream pints, load them up in the car and bring them back to Michigan because you couldn't buy Ben & Jerry's here yet.
Gotta do what you gotta do,
Ben & Jerry's?
Yeah, dude, I'd get $7 for a $5 pint.
Oh man, and it was squishy, I bet too, because coolers don't.
No, man.
No,
we had
them,
dry ice. We knew what we were doing.
Okay. All right. That's desperation, man. $7 a pint.
Just throw him in the truck and go, Rick. He had a system.
That's a problem with giving a cannabis person a bag of weed and tell them to deliver it. They might, pinch out of it. I would be tempted to pinch out of the Ben & Jerry's stash on the way home, man.
Right?
Oh, we ate well. Trust
We
me.
that cookie dough.
We'd buy the store out. I mean, me and 3 guys, we'd go down, we'd buy the whole store out, and they'd look at us like we were nuts. And you could
Don't
go
they have a
at
half baked
2 in the
ice
morning.
cream? Or Jerry Garcia.
Yeah, Cherry Garcia.
Yeah.
All that stuff, yep. Good shit.
Now, I've heard guys doing that with White Castles where they go and they order like 200 White Castles and then just sit and wait for them so they can take them back and sell them off at $1 a piece, for these sliders.
Right.
It's like Krispy Kreme donuts. Somebody was doing that, bringing them from one state, doing that on a regular route. Krispy Kreme finally just hired the dude and said, "Hey, just buy from us direct."
You're talking about Ohio, though. I remember High Times Cannabis Cups here in Clio, right north of Flint, right along the I-75 corridor, walking through the parking lot. I'm sure every one of us has probably had this experience where you see Michigan, Ohio, Michigan, Ohio, Michigan, Ohio plates.
Sure.
It's
one of them Ohio plates.
Ohio and Chicago.
All right, so because I put on an event, I'll own up to this. My phone rings and I see a 419 area code, and I take a deep breath because it's coming from Ohio. But I get a lot of people from Ohio come up for the event, and you can tell based on the phone numbers that it's a popular spot for Michigan tourism.
For those not familiar, Detroit's about 1 hour north of the Ohio line, and Flint's about 2 hours north of the Ohio line. So it's an easy run for people who live in Ohio.
Yeah, you can also see that those people are probably have one of the highest averages of cannabis purchase at dispensaries around the state of Michigan.
Right.
Biggest basket.
So they don't have to come
Same
a lot,
time.
They just stock up and
2.5.
Okay, so Jimmy wants this, and Billy wants that, and then Leo wants the other thing. Okay, so I think I got everything in my bag.
Yeah.
2.5 ounce limit. What? Nope. Very interesting. But the border states, I actually heard someone in the cannabis industry say, we send our lesser quality stuff to the border stores, the stores on the borders, because people coming from out state, they don't know good cannabis like people on the interior of the state know good cannabis. I thought that was very rude to say.
Ohio does.
Yeah, they know.
That
They
happens in Europe too.
There's a lot of small growers
That's
in
an old
Ohio, no
growing
matter what the
state.
laws are, that produce great
They
cannabis. In
know.
fact, a lot of our
No doubt.
great initial genetics in Michigan
I'm
came
just
from
saying
Ohio
what I heard.
in large part.
Yep.
Yeah,
Nope,
Akron's
I love
really well known for genetics. There's a couple of breeders out there. I forget their name offhand, but yeah, a lot of good genetics have come out of Ohio for sure.
When I started smoking cannabis, it was in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio, when I went to college at DeVry, and that's when I started smoking right there. So it was Ohio cannabis I began my journey with.
Ohio forced.
Remember when I opened Toledo Hemp Center, I'd call Ohio no Ohio.
There was
No,
some
I
trauma
remember.
from some Ohio people, not so long
What's the most
ago,
famous
so,
strain from Ohio?
Some Ohio people are
I
not
love
with me.
Death Star.
Death Star? Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Death Star was,
One of my all-time
I
favorites.
believe, one of the originated
That's
in
right.
Ohio.
Yeah.
There's one that was
I
a
love
dumpster
that.
strain. That was
Dumpster.
that had a really weird story to it.
I love that story. I love that story.
Okay, you have to tell it now.
Well, it's. Do you want to go ahead, Kevin?
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's the name gives it away. Somebody found the plant in a dumpster growing, and cultivated it and cloned it, and spread its seed.
Back then, it was called Dro. And from what I understand, I think it was on Ohio State campus, even, if I remember right.
420 Amsterdam. I'm the most famous strain from Akron. Laughing.
Nice.
Yeah. So
I've not heard of that.
when we start talking about cannabis legalization and medical marijuana, we can talk about Michigan being the first in the Midwest, but Ohio's always flirted with it. And Kevin, there was a movement called Responsible Ohio a while ago that sought to establish legalized cannabis in the state, but it would give an oligopoly to a certain number of super large guys and squeeze everybody else out of the program. But that failed because the Ohio voters saw through the bullshit and realized it was a bad deal. I mean, you were there for that, isn't that true?
Yeah, that was a heck of a fight. That actually split up a lot of the cannabis people around Ohio. It was an interesting, but in like you said, the people smelled the crap it was, but politicians ate that crap up and basically passed their own version of it. So we still ended up with the same crap, but we just don't have the 4 or 6 plants that we were going to be allowed to have.
What happened to those 10 players that were part of that thing? Are they part of the game, or did they disappear?
I haven't heard much from Nick Lachey.
Has he got a hold of you lately?
But I'm not sure too many, because I didn't really get in depth into who's involved with what down here, because I've been in Florida the last 2 years really. But I imagine a lot of the same players are still involved, as long as they were allowed to have a dispensary license. And they didn't have a felony or this and that, blah blah blah. But
what's your home cultivation situation, Kevin, in Ohio?
0 zip zilch. You hide out in the basement and grow just like we used to. And, yeah, but now we have
Is there a lot of police activity concerning cannabis here?
In Toledo, we passed several years ago. We passed a no fine, no time, where we decriminalized any cannabis misdemeanor within the city of Toledo, where they could not put you in, give you a fine or put you in jail for any offense, as long as it wasn't a felony, in regards to up to 100 grams.
That's great.
And that's actually taken off across all of Ohio, because in Ohio, it's not a felony till after 200 grams. So
it's decriminalized in some capacity already. Right?
That's great progress.
That's what's really helped it be a lot, in the friendlier side in regards to law enforcement, because they really don't have an edge, as well as at this point in day and age, they really don't know if it's hemp or marijuana. So they just don't care anymore. Not in Toledo anymore, really.
That's great.
Well, I think these cops that are on duty have been around long enough to know when they cared an awful lot and when they cared not at all. And the society's just the same, right? It doesn't hurt to de-emphasize law enforcement action on cannabis.
Yeah, and we get Toledo officers and county officers that do come in the store, and they'll pick up CBD hemp products, and they get them without the THC at all, because they obviously they get tested, but they won't go tell the chief because they're not allowed to take them. But guess what? These are the same cops that were picking the bodies up off the street when we're having all these overdoses, and they know the same anxiety medication that the doctors are trying to give them are what began a lot of that. So, they've really, the street version is really embraced it, and I think we need to sit down with the chief and say, hey, we need to talk about your protocol, because you're creating a distrust in your own department. Because guess what? They're telling me, but they ain't telling you.
Yeah. And I know there's a lot of times municipal actors might want to loosen up rules, but they're prevented to because of either union contracts which supersede what the city can do, or other things.
Right. So insurance requirements many times.
Christiana gives us a very small hand, just a small hand. That's all she gives us. Thank you,
That's all
Christiana.
she has.
So they do have shops down here.
One hand.
You're it's basically you come in, you pay for a consultation, they're giving you free weed. Because if they sell you a bag, it's a felony. Any selling of cannabis is a felony. So if I give it to you, it's just a misdemeanor. So basically, if I'm giving it to you, they can't put you in jail. They can't give you a ticket, although they could take it away. But guess what? That's not what they're doing. But if I was to set up a store where I'm selling it, that's a whole different story. But if I'm giving it to people, that's a whole different world.
This is a great conversation. Jamie, are we still expecting Bobby to come in?
Yeah, we are. He's not here yet, but yeah, he says he's going to come on. I'm sure
So
he'll come pretty soon. But yeah, go ahead.
If people want to support what you're doing, they want to find out more about Toledo Hemp Center or that place you've got in Florida. How can they do that?
Yeah, they can find us online at ToledoHempCenter.com or as well as Facebook or most of your social medias. My Florida store is a different name, My Hemp Solutions. Also, you can find myhempsolutions.com.net. Facebook. Our cookout we have coming up, that's August 14th. We're still looking for a couple sponsors. We're still looking for some backpacks. We're still looking for I think we have 123 of our backpacks stuffed so far. So we're still looking for a little bit more of that. But, anybody can help out with that, jumping on our Facebook page and getting a little guidance on how to help. We appreciate it all. And it was nice talking to everybody.
Yeah, you too, man. See you.
Kevin, thanks and best wishes for you going forward, man.
It's been a great journey. I'm glad you guys were a part of it.
Well, feel free to hang out too. When we bring a Bobby West on, he's the squash off champ,
Yep.
And lots of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I'm going to stick around. I'm going to go roll me a joint and I'm going to hang tough for a little bit.
All right.
Adam, I know we want to wait until we get Bobby on the line to talk about Frenchie, but it was kind of a shock.
Yeah, nobody was expecting that. I mean, it happens, he was just the nicest guy. That's the problem.
What happened? I'm sorry.
Frenchy Cannoli passed away after having a
Wow.
complication from some surgery.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that. I called that guy a little bit. That guy was great for hash and cannabis.
Yeah, he was like, so he's kind of new on the scene. He's part of the modern hash explosion. However, he's really all about old school techniques. See? And that's what made him so popular, was that he really knew he'd been making hash forever, but nobody knew who he was until recently.
Adam, in 2013, I was in Denver for the High Times Cup, and I was introduced to a guy that they called Frenchie, who had big glasses and looked just like him. Is it possible? Did he come to the United States, or was he just
he'd been in the United States many times.
Okay. Yeah. At that time, I had no idea, so I think I shook a hand and then kept moving on, not realizing that I just passed by this guy, right?
Right.
Innocence, man. It makes you miss moments. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, he was a cool cat. You'd run into him and you could sit and chat for hours about stuff that wasn't weed related. That's what was so cool, is that he was pretty intelligent. So, I didn't have to talk hash with him. I mean, I did have a great conversation once where I was trying to explain to him how these people don't care about hashish like he does, that they're happy with their dabs and their, modern versions of this stuff that he's been, praising forever. That to them, this concentrate, this modern version of the concentrate is better. They don't care for that hashish, and most of them don't have any concept of hashish. And he didn't get that. He just couldn't understand that to them that was hashish. That was, because
I agree with him. I've heard the same thing, and I don't get it. I'm partial to the old school hash.
Deb?
Well, they're two different things, and that's what he understood, and that's what these kids don't, because they're not into the plant material. And that's what makes hashish taste so good.
They're into rosin.
And sometimes, I like making the snake and putting the depth charge right down the middle of the joint.
That's right.
You need that, little malleability to do that.
Yeah.
You're a hash lover, aren't you, Deb?
Oh, I'm talking about the old school hash, like from the 70s, the big Afghani discs and stuff that we used to get. That was delicious.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen anything like that in so long.
This was in a judge's kit that I was just given.
Oh, I like that.
And it has a fucking needle in it.
Oh, a little hash under glass.
Yeah, you put your hash in there and you light it, and then you got
under the glass.
You don't have to compromise an album cover, man. All right.
So good.
That's a great idea. I like that.
But hash used to be hash oil along with plant material, and nowadays I think a lot of hash, what they call hash, is just pressed keef. So I think it's missing a component.
Well, that's why if you can get real hash, it's worth getting. Yeah. And whenever given the opportunity, I always
show off.
Yeah, I'm gonna show off.
I love it.
Here, this is my last 10 grams of some Lebanese blonde.
See, that's what I'm talking about, Ed.
I'm half Lebanese, Mr. Hash Bash.
All right. Well, your people sell it to my people, and then they bring it from Israel.
Oh, beautiful.
There we go.
I actually was fortunate to smoke some of that on driving on the edge of the Mediterranean when I was in my 20s with this guy listening to Marley. It was phenomenal.
So is one of the appeals of hash that when we smoke hash, we are taken back to a time earlier when we first were introduced to it? Is that part of the appeal, the nostalgia, or is it just a superior high? What's your opinion, guys? Well,
if it depends. So if we're talking like this blonde Lebanese, that tastes like the same blonde Lebanese that I smoked 2 years ago or 10 years ago. It's the same plant coming from the same part of the world, being grown by the same people the same way.
And
the Moroccan hash that I get when I'm in Amsterdam, it tastes like, the shoe tastes like the shoe. It always tastes like the shoe. You know it, you see it, you taste it. It's always the same. That's a lot different than what we're seeing here.
They're using ancient processing too. That's what gives it the flavor and the consistency, the everything.
Right. The domestic hash processing is a totally different monster. And like you said, it's a lot of keef being pressed together. It isn't the same, but if it was made consistently, it should taste the same. And that's part of the problem we have here too, is that because these guys are still learning consistency. Some of the extractors have it down because they figured out a process and it works perfect and they dialed it in. But the hash makers, they're still learning.
Yeah, I think there's some nostalgia.
Can't hear you, Rick.
Rick, I think there's a nostalgia to the fact that because when I smoked that stuff, as Adam was speaking to the Lebanese blonde or the Moroccan, it has that certain, I think there's now a terpene called hashine that they discovered that represents that taste and smell. And
is it predominant in hash plant? Just out of curiosity, is that the reason why it was called hash plant?
I'm not sure how they came up with hashashine. I forget. It's a really strange pronunciation, but it's a new terpene. But that brings back a lot of memories for me from having smoked that in my early days, like in my early 20s. And so I think it's a little bit of both.
Uncle Stoner wouldn't know anything about hash.
No, but unfortunately, I don't. But unfortunately, the person that would know that passed away on Sunday, which is Frenchy Cannoli, because he's been doing hash since his 20s. He did hash from 20 for a while. Then he got married and had kids. And he still did with it, but he wasn't out there that much. And then once his kids got older, that's when he got back in the scene. And I'll bet you Frenchie would have known exactly what that new terpene is you're talking about from hash.
Bobby, that's what we were essentially starting the conversation with. We were discussing our individual love of hash, and then wanted to get into a talk about Frenchie. But before we talk about him, What about your particular love of hash? Do you like hash because it takes you back to a memory that you had long ago, or is it something that you feel is just a superior high?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. You know, it brings me back from back in the day, first going over to Amsterdam and getting my hands on some real hash. And at that time, because, you know, cannabis is my medication. So at first, it was just smoking flower. And then once I found, you know, Moroccan, the Nepalese Temple Balm, and the full melt, oh, I was in heaven. I mean, that was some amazing stuff. So it always brings me back to Amsterdam and being able to see what true hash looks like. You know, I tried to buy some a lot of years, years ago when I first got out of the military, went over to Amsterdam, and basically they sold me dirt. Or at least I thought it was dirt. I'm pretty sure it didn't burn. That's for damn sure. But coming over to Amsterdam and seeing, you know, meeting Frenchie. Well, I didn't meet Frenchie then, but meeting, there was a guy named Trichome Farmer who was really good at hash. And there was a few, Bubble Man, Mila, definitely Mila. And being able to try some of her stuff and some of the stuff that Soma had, it was like, whoa, it blew me away. And like Bubble Man, he makes stuff right now that is so beautiful, full melt hash that you can straight up dab with it. And it tastes amazing. He brought over some to Jamaica, and we met up there a year and a half right before the coronavirus and everything. And this stuff, you'd think that it was extracted, but no, it was just made really nice. It's some beautiful, full melt bubble hash. That was just dabbable. It was amazing.
Jim Salame, did we get your story, Jim? I didn't want to mistake or overlook you there.
The story, no, I think
nostalgia or the high for the hash.
The nostalgia, I think it's a little bit of both. Is what I was saying. Yeah, so a little bit of both if we're going around the room.
And Kevin, you're a hash lover too, or?
Absolutely, I love a good hash.
I love a hash pipe. Okay, I like a designated hash pipe. Oh, you're smoking this? I'll punch you in the face if you put cannabis in a hash pipe, kind of a thing, right? So when you have something like that seasoned with a couple of bowls full, really, that's when I think, you know, I'm loving on the hash. Although Adam, before you came on, Bobby, Adam showed us a neat little device that he'd received. That's a jar with a little pin in it for cooking hash. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a member of Hash Lovers of America, and if you follow us on Instagram and just post any of your hash pictures, that's always fun. We're trying to post hash pictures when we have them. Yeah. I would love, Adam, for you to post that Lebanese blonde on Hash Lovers of America.
I got a story about that device there, Adam, or something kind of in that line, if you don't mind. So me and Shivo from System of the Down, System of the Down, heavy rockers, we're at Bulldog, and he made up a thing where he put a hole in the side of his cup, put a straw there, and put a safety pin, put hash in it, and lit it on fire, and put the cup over it. And we're sitting there taking hits off it. The manners came over and threw us out of fucking Bulldogs. He thought we were doing heroin. But no, it's just basically something like that, but old school way. But we got thrown out because he thought we were doing heroin, and it was just hash, and we just smoked it.
Did you see that little rig that Adam has?
Yeah, you just showed him.
That's what made me think of the thing Shivo made up. It was kind of like that, but not. It was just put together his little MacGyver way, but it's basically the concept is the exact same thing. Put the hash right there. Yeah.
I think hash has probably inspired more creativity and innovation amongst cannabis consumers over the years than almost any other substance, because it's not something you can roll up in a paper. You have to really have a way to smoke hash properly in order to make good on it. And we've seen so many different ways to do it already today.
Hey,
Soma used to have this long bamboo stick like this, and with a little clay bowl on it, and that's what he used to smoke his bubble hash out of. Oh, I used to love that. I remember one of the times we're standing line getting in the sugar factory there right across from the milk wagon in Amsterdam. He hands me it. I take a big old rip and I turn and just blow it towards the street. Right there is a cop. Cop pulls up, and with the windows open, so it goes boom right into the whole fucking into the cop van. It was hilarious, man. They look at me dirty, like, I'm sorry. That and another time we're in Spain at this restaurant. And we're smoking on it. Soma got so high he goes to hand the waiter it. And the waiter looks at him like, "What is this?" He hands the waiter it, and the waiter's like,
Well, the waiter's in the circle. Why not?
Yeah,
right?
I know he was at that time. He was in the circle, so somebody just handed it to him.
Jamie, you wanted a direct conversation. What's going on?
What's that?
Jamie was going to.
If I was going to do something before, I now forgot.
I apologize if I interrupted, Jamie.
We love it. Your stories are great.
About it.
We should probably start talking a little bit about Frenchie at this point because we've all had a chance to talk about.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say actually. Now that you've refreshed my memory, that I am interested in a little bit more background. I see the influence. I was somewhat, aware. Let's say, the person, never met him as you guys did, or get to know a little bit more about him personally and all that kind of stuff. I'm just interested in some of that stuff and some background and some personal kind of views of him.
He always had a smile on his face. That's one thing. He always had a smile on his face. And one of the best videos I have, and DC Scroggins shared today, it's at our squash off we had here in Michigan. He one of the judges. He's like, "This is like Michael Dosen." And he laughs and he's like, "I am so fucked up." To hear him say that he was so messed up, after judging our competition. It was a really cute little video. I like that one. Yeah, but I'd never seen him without a smile. He was always willing to give that energy, that passion, and that love, and that knowledge to whoever wanted it, with a smile on his face. Always with a smile. He had a great smile. Sometimes you couldn't understand exactly what he said sometimes because of his accent, but he'd always repeat himself if you asked. But that smile, he always had a great smile on his face, and he loved the people and the plant. And that's the experience I got from him and spending with him, is that it was all about the people and the plant. He was so very passionate about it.
Adam?
Yeah.
That's a really good Medibles contest, right? Yeah.
Let me listen. I ate those Medibles fucking yesterday. I am still wasted. All right.
Okay, Delta 8's in them or what?
No.
What's in it?
No, dude. I had about 600 milligrams yesterday. I ate shit I shouldn't be eating. I ate some potato chips that were chocolate covered, 300 milligrams. I ate some corn pop thingies that were 100 milligrams. I ate a big thing of fairy floss. What do you call that stuff?
Cotton candy.
Cotton candy. Right. That was all weeded out. My head was spinning last night. I tried to go upstairs to bed starting at 11 o'clock. I made it up at 2:35 in the morning.
Are you pain free? Do you have any? Can you feel your face?
Yeah, I can feel my face. I'm still in pain. I just can't.
My head would be more than spinning.
That's all.
You're being laughed with or at by emoji.
That's okay. You can laugh at me.
So, Adam, what we were talking about is Frenchie, and Bobby shared some stories. So, go ahead, rip it out.
The thing about Frenchie is he was this celebrity amongst men, and people could walk up to him, and he had the time. He would talk to you. You'd ask the dumbest fucking question, and he would explain the proper answer. He always had time for people. And everyone came at him at a different level of knowledge, and he didn't care. He would help the guy who didn't get it, and he would argue with the guy who thought he knew more than him. So I liked the guy. I mean, I got to hang out with him at the squash off in Amsterdam. I don't know, 2 years ago, was it, Bobby? And yeah. We had great laughs then. I was miserable. I was dying that trip. I was in bad shape. But we were talking about all kinds of crazy shit that had nothing to do with weed. And the guy just was a great, happy guy. I'm waiting to hear shit about him. Ain't nobody talking smack about him.
Yeah, that's remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, because when I die, I know you guys are going to have like the good show and the bad show. Come talk shit about Adam or come talk shit about Adam.
Well, if somebody's being honest about it, you'll be okay with that in your death, right?
I'm good with that. I'm sorry I won't be there. I want to do it before I go. But ain't nobody got a bad.
Well, I was at the Peace Fest.
You made your casket. You got to sleep in it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was at the Peace Fest. I lit up a joint, and Adam says, "How do you know How you know for sure that Marvin is dead?" I said, I didn't run over here and try to start smoking that joint with you.
There should be a roast of Adam L. Brook. There should be. We should do
the posthumous roast.
The roast of Adam L. Brook.
No. While he's alive.
While he's alive, you said you wanted to hear. Let's do it.
Well, I want him to posthumously roast a bunch of people like that. That's
the thing. I mean, listen. Every time I light up a joint and Marvin doesn't come running, I know he's dead. Every time. I mean, God bless him, but Yeah.
I remember some of the early days before I actually knew who Marvin was, and he was just, and I'm sorry to disrespect him, but he was just a short, creepy guy who always seemed to have a lot younger, sketchy dudes hanging around him, and he would run over. And you would pass a joint, and then it would just disappear because him and the sketchy dudes would just, So,
just be happy
or
you weren't
sketchy guy would
in
hand
any
it
of the
back to
party.
you, and it'd be covered in blood or something.
Oh, thank you. Oh, wow. There's a memory.
That's happened. Yeah.
When talking about Frenchie, I mean, there's obviously an Amsterdam connection, and then there's a USA connection too. Sounds like most of the experiences y'all had with it were basically overseas, right?
I did, yes.
Well, whoever had an experience with Frenchie that they can talk about.
He was in Michigan too, I think, right?
Yeah, he came to Michigan.
Yeah.
Well, like I said when it first came out, a lot of people think that he was over in Amsterdam back in the day during the cups and all that. No, he got into it in the 60s and hash and all that stuff, learned all that stuff. And then once he got married, he stopped. I mean, he still did his own little stuff, but he raised his kids. Once he raised his kids and got them gone, then he started doing the hash and coming back out with his passion and the hash and stuff. So a lot of people don't realize he's only, maybe 10 or 12 years ago is when he really put there, started bringing stuff out there and showing people. So from when he first started until now, his passing, he did a lot. I mean, he did a lot of great things and taught a lot of people about hash.
And that was the thing. He taught a lot. He did a lot of seminars. He was happy to educate people and give the knowledge and pass it on. And it wasn't uncommon to see him doing a tour of hash making classes.
Well, you may be familiar with, our viewers might be familiar with him as Cam Cannoli on Facebook. That was his Facebook identity. And he had, I think, 5,000 friends maxed out like some of us are.
Yeah. His wife, too, our hearts go out to his wife. She's a lovely, amazing woman. And, I can imagine how heartbroken she is because he truly was a great man. I mean, not too many of these men you find out there that are respected by other men. A lot of other men in his life, and he's one of them that he was respected by all. And I'm sure it is just hard for his wife and what she's going through.
Was he in his 50s?
So our heart goes out to her, and what she's going through.
How old was he? Does anybody know how old he is?
I want to say 60. Mid 60s. I mean, he was in his 60s. Probably around maybe 64 to 67, perhaps.
Okay.
He wasn't not that old.
You can go anytime, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. Because he only smoked the hashish. I mean, I think he did spliffs once in a while, maybe with him, so maybe a little tobacco. But other than that, he was in great shape and everything.
If you look on people's Instagram accounts right now or on their Facebook pages, you'll see a lot of folks posting videos of them and Frenchie in places where Frenchie would say, do you hookah? Do you hookah? And then he would hook up a hookah and pass around the pipes, and everybody would indulge. And when one person would take off, he'd be sure to fill that spot quickly.
Oh, yeah. He was famous for that, especially at HT, High Times and other places. He always had a hookah going. Even at the last event we did, our hash squash off in Amsterdam. at the 710 Art Fair. He broke out a hookah there, really nice hookah and everything else. So it was a good way to bring everybody together. And that's what he liked. He loved bringing people together, and breaking that hookah out was the best way to do it. Because people come in, people come out, so you get to meet all kinds. I think that way, at one time it was me, Frenchie, Mila, and a few other people. It was all hitting on that hookah back, I think, at backstage or somewhere at Chalice, maybe side stage. But it was really cool because all these different people were coming in and out, smoking with us and all that. And he liked that. He likes that communal thing. He wanted to give back that love and that knowledge and that feeling to everybody else.
You can feel that in someone's personality. You can feel that it comes across even in the mundane conversations they have. When someone, has that light within them, no matter what you're doing, it helps them out. And Mila, of course, is the hash queen. We've mentioned her a couple of times, but she's also one of those people who are, back then instrumental in getting hash more accepted by a Western culture, right?
Yeah.
So he was 64, just to confirm.
Yeah, 64. Okay, I knew it was like close to 10 years older than me because I'm 53.
Paul for the win. Thank you, Paul. We have so many great people in chat watching and listening to this. Thank you so much. I can't name them all. Susan and Astro and Randy, Nectar, 420 Amsterdam, of course, Paul, so many others.
I noticed we got Amsterdam on there. They've commented a few times. That's awesome because, Amsterdam was a pivotal point for a lot of people and stuff. And yeah. Yep. A lot of the legends came from there. I mean, Frenchie came from Europe. Yes, he spent time in Amsterdam, but it was in the later years, when he started spending, people got to know him there. Or at least the cup community and the cup goers and everybody else, that's when they started getting to know him, later years.
Consider Amsterdam as an incubator of sorts where people came, got knowledge, and then went back to their home places and then utilized that knowledge to start industry or to start, pirate organizations or to help people, So when you're looking at people that religiously, and I mean religiously, went to Amsterdam every single year in order to celebrate, right? Those were people that every time they went away got new knowledge, new information, and they brought it back and put it to best use. So as an incubator of sorts, we would be so much further behind if that hadn't been present. And Jim, you were in Amsterdam, weren't you?
I've gone to Amsterdam a couple of times.
Yeah. So
I've loved it. Yeah.
Did we ever meet in Amsterdam?
Say again?
Jim, did me and you ever meet in Amsterdam, Jim?
I don't know. Do you feel like we have?
I do, because every time I've been on this show, I'm sitting and thinking, where have I met him at? And I feel, especially, I don't know, with that
would be great.
Background and everything, I just feel like I met you at one like homegrown.
Well, I hung out with the Bulldog there. I definitely hung out with the Bulldog when I went to Amsterdam. So if that was a place you hung out, there was another place, the Greenhouse.
Oh yeah, Greenhouse, of course. What about Johnny's Gray Area? Did you ever hang out at Gray Area?
It sounds familiar, but it's been a long time since I've been there. Yeah. I actually I went there when I was 25, and then I met my dad somewhere, and then I ended up going back there because I had like 2 days just to go back. And
what year was that? If you don't mind, what year was that?
Like 95.
Yeah, see, I was still in the military. I mean, a lot of people, for some reason, think I was there back then in them days. Yeah. But honestly, I didn't come on the scene in Amsterdam until I think it was 2001 is when I finally came on the scene over there. But for some reason, a lot of the old school people are like, oh, yeah, Uncle Stone, I remember back in 95 when I'm like, oh. I
don't know. Again in 2002, and I was at a party in Dam Square. At right next to, or maybe in that hotel there. There's a really nice hotel. It was right next door to that, and it was a USA themed party, so it was really weird for me to go in there because everyone was dressed up like Uncle Sam.
Oh,
there was like stars and stripes everywhere.
I remember that time.
It was just
really footage.
It was really trippy for me. It was like in 2000, like right around 2000, I think, 2001.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we did meet somewhere back then. All right, sorry guys.
All right, so Bobby,
because he remembers you when you had dreads, Bobby.
Yeah, remember I had dreads. See, back then I had dreads too. There's a picture of me on stage at Adam's. It was a fashion show, and me and the guy from Homegrown Fantasy played Caveman. So I was in a hemp furry thing, and then of course my dreadlocks and all that. But yeah,
nice. That's good. So let's talk about squash offs for a minute or two. Then we'll.
What's that? No,
so they obviously you had to kind of shut stuff down for a while, and if I'm not mistaken, when you just went out to Vegas, that was the first one in a few months.
Oh yeah, a few months. I mean, the last one we did was that since November of 2019 when we did it in Mexico, in Jalisco, Mexico, which that was a great squash off. We're actually just secured a deal today. We're going back over to Mexico for our last squash. When we finish our squash off tour this year, we're finishing off in Mexico like we did in 2019. So yeah, we just had our first 30th, which is our 30th squash off actually in Vegas, at the Age Radio Secret Cup there. And we had 11 entries for the first time. That wasn't bad. Some of the coffee shop or dispensary owners didn't realize, because they're on our metrics and stuff, they were worried how to enter their flower. Unfortunately, the message didn't get to them that all they have to do is if themselves or an employee buy it at cost, and then taking it in behalf of that dispensary, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the loop. I mean, there's nothing against it saying an employee buying it and having it entered in behalf of. But anyway, but we did have 11 entries, which is really great. And we had Brett Vogue, Nate from Temple Dragon, Red Dragon, excuse me, Nate from Red Dragon Brothers, Pony Boy, Aldo Caldo that used to work for High Times and also used to be in Menudo, Chris Chiari from 420 Hotels. So we had all them guys and all them judges there. So it turned out to be really good. The audience enjoyed themselves. A lot of people came up to us and said they learned a lot from listening to the judges on caring and handling and whatnot. And so although we only had 11, which we were on a cap at 15, I think it was a successful squash off. We broke ground there in Vegas, so it was successful. I'm definitely do it again, probably in the winter time, because one thing we noticed out of all the squash offs we've done around the world, for some reason, the yield on this return has been the lowest we've ever seen in any squash offs. Normally, we do 5 grams. This one we did 6 grams, and maybe the highest yield we got was maybe a gram 0.3, and one entry we pressed and we got nothing from it. Wow. So I don't know if it's the heat there, because we put them all up on thing, but I just don't know if it's the heat that does it around. So it's kind of interesting that the yields were not as big as we normally get in Michigan. We get some big yields, and I only do 5 grams in Michigan, but wow, the returns we get back are amazing. But I just
Bobby, let me just explain to the listeners when we're talking about yields. Squash off involves taking heavy weight, pressing down on cannabis bud, and literally squishing out the resin from the bud. You discard the bud material, and then you smoke the resin that you've created through the squash process. And when you talk about yield, that's the amount of resin that's pushed out of the bud based on how much bud you're putting in there. And again, in the drier environment, you're saying just not so much resin in there.
Right. So just to be clear, like the pressure and heat and all that kind of stuff remains the same wherever you are.
Yeah.
And so it's the other factors that you're looking at, okay.
Right.
Yeah, because because normally GMO, we had a GMO GMO cross, which we all know GMO is a great producer. It produces great hash, great extract, and great rosin. Well, this one, it produced the most, but still it didn't even do that well, at normal. Especially with doing 6 grams. We should have, out of 6 grams, we should have got the GMO cross. We should have got maybe 2.5 grams out of that. But yeah, it's just I think it's the heat there, in the climate. It messes with the trichomes and releasing.
Bobby, Uncle Stoner, just to make sure that you're not disparaging the quality of the oil that you got. It's just the volume we're talking about, not the quality at all, right?
Yeah, no, the quality, it's the volume. Yeah, the quality, hell no, you don't smoke it you're gonna get high. If you don't use that, you definitely get high. Because trust me, every trichome formation, that's what's weird. Because we put the trichome formation up on a TV screen so you can see it. Everyone looked great. I mean, there's maybe one or two that got little low scores, but nothing below. We do 1 through 5 on all our scoring. From 1 through 5, and you can do points and fractions. So the highest you can get is 5. So I think the lowest was maybe a 2.5, maybe a 3. So it's nothing like they didn't know how they grow or whatnot. It was just, I think it's that heat there and everything. And yeah, it messes with the yield. But if you, when you freeze it and go to make it into hash, I'm sure it's going to be a great hash producer because the trichomes are there. When you go to smoke it or vape it, a vaporizer, it's going to be great. As far as pressing, unfortunately, and let's say, and that's why I wanted to go back there in the winter time or the coldest time and see how it turns out, and see if there is a difference between, summertime and the heat and everything, and going there in the wintertime and pressing the flower in the wintertime.
That's interesting. Yeah. Good to know. Yeah. Hey, so let's please hang out. And let's take a second to check in with Anthony Freed, who's at his place where he's developing a really cool venue this summer for a mini concert series on Whitmore Lake. And we've been out there a couple of times, and it is a pretty cool place to do that. And how you doing, Anthony?
Have Jazz Cabbage come out and broadcast one day.
Yeah,
the lake would be a great backdrop. But how's everyone doing today?
What's up, Anthony?
Heard everyone.
Blessings.
Frenchie, so heart goes out to the family. Not the greatest of days, but that's kind of why I'm building this place up. So that we have a community.
I can't hear you that well, man. I'm sorry, Anthony. You can get a little.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, a little closer to the mic or something. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
So,
I'm sorry that a company needs having to be closer to your face, but
I was just going to make that big head joke. But
I was born this way.
Okay, you are redeemed.
So there we go. So here's the scene. Out there. Some people be listening to the music while they're sitting on their boats and stuff like that.
That's great.
I live on the southern sandbar of Whitmore Lake. My property is 120 foot wide. It goes 80 foot out, and it's only about 3-4 foot deep, which means about 60 foot out you can sit in a lawn chair. About 80 foot out you can go out and float. But long story short, we're all going to get stoned and party in the water. The stage will be my yard. It's about 4 feet above the water level, so you can come all the way up to the seawall. I've got acts coming from Tennessee, New York, Ohio, a few local bands in the Detroit area. But the concerts are free, so anyone can come. We're Apothecare Ann Arbor sponsoring our smoking section. We have Wolverine Brewing Company of Ann Arbor will be here, and they're sponsoring the event. Pharmacist Wellness will be here also. Whitmore Lanes across the street is also helping out. We'll also have a chef on site, food. But it's going to be, it's not an MRA event. We're not stuck in Cannabis here. It's our own. We've got a smoking.
Well, I've been there.
Conveniently, the questionable stuff he's saying, the behavior stuff, just doesn't come across.
Right.
The filter's here. We have a filter helping.
We're not doing anything wrong or smoking.
The smoking section is actually.
You can literally sit on a sandbar and just chill in the water. I tell you what, you don't dare do that down in Florida. You had like an unexpected visitor down there.
No. Nothing.
It's beautiful out there. I've been out there and seen it myself too, and yeah, it's It's an awesome spot. That the video, it looks beautiful, but it doesn't even do it justice. Tell you what. Right. It'd be an awesome time to go out to watch some music out there for sure. We've talked about it.
When is the first one, Anthony?
This Saturday, 5 to 8, and every Saturday going through September 11th, 5 to 8. Weather permitting, of course. We're kind of biting our nails a little bit. It's 50% chance of rain right now. So good mojo. Good mojo.
Are you asking for a donation, Anthony, or is it just, get in the water and take your clothes off and enjoy yourself?
No, it's free.
What?
It's free. It's a free event.
I wanted to wake Adam up. That's why I said that.
No outside food or drink. Bring your own.
And don't leave half drink of cans of whatever, pop or beer laying around. Make sure you pick up after yourself.
Oh yeah.
We will litter shame people.
Really worried about people in the lake. That's one thing that I definitely am concerned about. That's one of the reasons why I don't want people smoking cigarettes out in the water like that. That's why we created a big giant VIP actually the band. It's closer to the chef and everything like that. But no, we'll have $5 beers and food out here for sale, and that's how we'll make our money back. But the event is absolutely free. We'll have a diving platform out there. We're also looking at bringing in like fire breathers and sword swallowers. Jamie said he didn't want to swallow any swords, but I think I might.
He's good at it, though. He's good at it.
I thought I'd convince him before the end of the summer.
Hey, man.
I can have a diving board in 4 foot.
But we're also looking at bringing in other types of artists and performing acts just other than music.
Shout diving?
My wife has a lot of friends that.
Yeah, you high dive right into the 2 feet of water.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, man.
Now, just stay with me for a second here. What do you think about putting?
You blanked out when you got to the good part.
What was that?
I said, Adam, stay with me here. Just what do you think about putting on a Speedo?
Oh, I got one. I got a black one, bro. I'm good.
I'll post the dates of that so I know when not to come over.
Yeah.
You should put him in a dunk tank. Put him in a dunk tank with a Speedo.
What is the matter with all you people?
What's right with us?
We're actually benefiting a really great cause called the Luke Clinic. So we partnered with a nonprofit, and what they do is they help with prenatal care and premature born babies in inner city Detroit. So a portion of our sales will actually go to that. So if you bastards want to put me in a dunk tank and dunk me and raise money for babies, I'm your guy.
So let's give me a dunk tank out there.
This Saturday, huh?
This Saturday, next Saturday, the next 6 Saturdays, 5
Be
days.
there. Be there. Be
We're
there.
located at 9444 Main Street in Whitmore Lake. We're at exit 52 on US 23. We're about a quarter-mile off the highway. We're super easy to find. Parking will be across the street at 9455, which is Whitmore Lanes, our partner. We got parking for about 200 cars. With the sandbar, there could be as many as 1,000 people here. With the people,
bowling alley across the street, you can smoke a bowl and go bowl a bowl.
Yeah,
it's a good time out there.
That's all coming soon, actually. Apothecare is
rolling bowl
over a huge outdoor.
We did that
area at the bowling alley and making it all nice and look like a beach and everything. So no, it'll be like we're partying on the islands for a day, huh? Without having to get on a plane.
Will you have restrooms or just the lake?
No, just pee in the lake.
Yeah.
I advise everyone, just
floaters
of it to pee in the lake at least once. But
floater.
I went all classy on the situation and I sprung for some porta potties. I know, right? I know.
Are they floating? Will they float on the water?
Porta potties will float, yes.
Hey, you know what? You guys just porta potty racing. So we get porta potties, we hollow them out, and we turn them into boats and then race across the lake.
Well, people who need the porta johns are standing there dancing. You guys done racing yet? I gotta pee. Right.
And then the neighbors are like, "What the hell was that?" Is what
Yeah, that draws the wrong attention.
Porta John is the name of a website in Las Vegas, but they don't sell toilets.
Right.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I think that's a prostitution joke, but
they come to me.
yes. Frenchy Cannoli, Judy. Judy Till asks about Frenchie's last name, Cannoli, like the Italian pastry.
But on Facebook, his real name is Cammy. Cammy Cannoli.
Yep. So that sounds great, Anthony. Wonderful deal. What about this party bus I've seen so many pictures of and actually rode on?
So the party bus is going crazy. I was actually very fortunate enough to hang out with Mr. Brook. I'm trying to recruit him to be a storyteller, trying to get Harry Barracuda and some others on there. But it's been so much fun, and it's been kind of rewarding to sell, Ypsi and Ann Arbor as destination locations. But it's so great to go on the bus and tell the story of John and the 10 for 2 concert and, the Hash Bash and Adam and just, everything that Ann Arbor's meant to changing culture and the piece, whether it be a small piece or a large piece, however you consider it, Ann Arbor is definitely a piece of how everything got changed. So to be able to celebrate that, to be able to talk about it, to be able to provide a place for other activists to come, it's been really just something I never anticipated being able to be a part of.
Describe the service and how frequently do you run?
So we run on Sundays from 12 to 2 right now. We originally only scheduled 3 events, but we've now scheduled all the way through October 31st. Most buses I think we're sold out until the September's filling up now. So we've pretty much sold out August. We've sold out the rest of July. We're talking about adding a second bus on Sunday or doing a second tour.
Oh, I see a Christmas.
That's a great response. Yeah.
Man.
So this is all because of the being
Santa
featured on Jazz Cabbage a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, no,
excellent response.
Changed my life.
Yeah.
Say that again, Anthony, because you blanked out.
I said Cabbage has changed my life. I
blanked out again.
I'm a better person now inside.
Yeah, we'll have to edit that out. It'll be my voice going, Jazz Cabbage, save my life. So
I hope I'm never roasted by you people ever, and I'm sure if I am.
You people. He whipped out the you people.
Right. I
start the
break it out.
Start the event. Start with Adam and go to Anthony.
But it's a circle bus tour. I've been really surprised about. We actually had a suggestion that we turn the music down a little bit more and the microphone up. People are really just. They want to hear the stories about Ann Arbor. They want to hear the stories about Adam, the Hash Bash. They want to know who John is. Most people don't even know he's a poet, and if you were to ask John, that's what he's going to say that he is. And most of these people, they don't understand that, like, very few people choose to be an advocate, some that, and, John was at the wrong place at the wrong time. And long story short, he's, an activist 60 years later, 70 years later. His whole life has been about activism because of it. So they're really digging that. Now, this is the crazy part. Cleveland, Ohio, the first week, New Jersey, New York, Vermont, Maryland. We've had people from all over get on this bus. That came here to ride the bus. They were not coming to Ann Arbor. They came, they got on, and they heard all the stories, and every single one of them has said it was absolutely worth the drive. And they're looking for other events that we want to create. People are really excited about the Storyteller series, where we get firsthand accounts from some of the greats in the industry. And in activism, and I'm really excited to do that with a few people. Hint, Adam. But yeah, like I said, the big thing for me is it's been so rewarding just because I feel like I'm giving back a little bit to, a town and an industry and a group of people that have given so much to my life, and to be able to really honor, the previous few generations of activism, because I don't hear the people at Sky Mint doing it. I don't hear a lot of the newer licensees. It's like the old school never existed, and they have no idea where they came from.
Anthony, I think we sort of buried the lead here. The fact is, for our viewers and listeners, you get to smoke cannabis while you're driving on a bus around Ann Arbor. I think maybe we may have overlooked that part of the whole thing. The storytellers are cool, but people love the concept of being able to tour while they're 420ing, right?
That is absolutely true. I am not going to take credit for smoking weed on a bus, though. We
seems to go better with a lot of things.
If you don't smoke, don't worry, because it's basically just a big giant gas chamber about 10 minutes into the ride.
Don't worry if you don't smoke.
Right, you'll second in. Right.
Yeah, we contact highs are real the other day.
Oops.
Well, I will, Anthony. We've talked about a lot of different things, but what we haven't talked about is walking into this industry with Third Coast Compassion. You and Daryl and Jamie and the first municipally recognized dispensary in the state of Michigan, 2009, and then you carried all the way through now to Apothecare. So we have very little time left, but can you opine on that journey?
I'm just a caregiver, and go. I don't want to use the term pro, but I mean, you just keep on growing. You keep on working at your craft, and this has just been a passion of mine. I work, my wife will tell you I work 10, 12 hours a day, but my life and my work and my play are all very close to one another. And to be able to, what I really want to do now is help people get into the industry, for anyone that wants to get in. So it's just had I had a professional life. I don't ever miss doing mortgages. I don't ever miss kissing Wall Street's ass. I don't ever miss going and selling cars. My family is provided for, and I'm glad. I never regret a single day that I'm in the industry. A lot of you people, not to call it, you say you people, but, there's a lot of people on this screen that, help make that happen. So long, 12 years, it's crazy to say. I thought I would have been in a cage a long time ago, but
you made it through.
But yeah, so, Jamie and Daryl really did a great job with Third Coast, which is now Oz, so it's still there. It's still operating. A lot of the things we did to, manage our own store and everything are now part of the industry. There's a lot of things that I'm really proud of, and I'm really just looking forward to the future. But
I remember meeting Mr. Freed. I remember meeting him before there was dispensaries at the Compassion Club meetings and stuff around the state.
You know what? I will say, Anthony started this thing, the Michigan Marijuana. We have to get going soon, but the Marijuana Chamber of Commerce and the MMA was in existence, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, and they were designed to help set people up, these clubs and stuff. But there was some turmoil at times in that organization, and like we ended up getting a lot of the calls. And so Anthony and myself and Daryl went out to a lot of these first-time Compassion Club meetings around the state and started making connections early on that way.
That was an amazing time, I think, for all of us, just really traveling the state, talking to city councils, but just meeting all of these activists from all over the state and, helping people help other people. That all just goes into just this wild ride and how it's, something I never really ever anticipated.
Yeah. We have to kind of start a descent, but I appreciate getting that last discussion, and we talk about that stuff later. Bobby, any squash offs coming up? Any events? Anything you want to leave us with?
Yes, we have the next squash off is at the Grow Trade Fest, which is going to be at the Lake of the Ozarks. So if you watch that show, Ozarks, hey, here's your chance to come check out the area. It's going to be at the Lodge of the Four Seasons. They're allowing seed sales, and their booths allow. As long as you have the disclaimer on the back, these are novelty seeds. They're seed sales. You can smoke outside cannabis because it's a medical state, and we're having our squash off in the VIP area. Mr. Hash Bash is one of the judges coming out there, and he speaks. I think both of him and I are speaking on a panel as well together there. But I think that's going to be a fun event and a great place to network and everything. Missouri's a new state, medical wise, so
is that the show me state?
Yeah, yes. No, is that the no? Is it? Yeah, I don't know. Is it? Yeah. So they want you to show. They need us to come there with our products, our knowledge, and show them because they are a new state. But I'm excited because I'm sure there's some great growers there. We do have already 2 dispensaries that have entered our competition so far from Missouri. So I'm gonna be happy. I think it's gonna be a great event, all in all. Besides us having the squash off there, it's gonna be a great event for everybody attends, for everything else that goes on there. There's gonna be poker night, meals, all kinds of stuff there, right there at the lake, all that. So it'll be good times and a good place to network, and all of us come together again. It's
very cool. I don't see get a new state going.
What is it? And what's the name of it again? I'm sorry.
It's the Grow Trade Fest.
Grow Trade Fest.
Yeah, it's August 27th and 28th at
Missouri.
in Missouri at the Lake of the Ozarks at the Lodge of the Four Seasons. Jennifer Rouse on Facebook, she's the one putting it all together. She's been doing a great job because now she's gotten a few other advice from some of us that have already done events and whatnot. So she's trying to make sure that people that buy booths and people that come there walk away extremely happy. I can get I'm getting that buy from her, and that's important because there's a lot of events out there just money grabs, and that's unfortunate because some of these people, first time users of cannabis, go to these events hoping to learn something or gain something from it, and basically they just get hustled and get the money taken away from them, and that's not good. These money grabs are not good, and there's a lot of them out there. This one isn't one of them. I feel that she's trying to make sure that everybody has a great time.
Bobby, I think your hands are too close to the microphone. We're getting a little feedback. There you go.
As long as Jason Bateman and Laura Lindley aren't there, it should be a legitimate place, to be.
Yeah, there you go. But no, I think it's going to be a great time. I'd love to see all you guys out there. I don't know, it's not too far of a drive. A lot of us are used to driving farther than that or a nice flight. So it'd be great to see some of you besides Adam there. Because that said, there's still booths for glass blowers and seeds and other things. So there's about maybe 10 to 15 booths left, I think, out of the whole area that she's doing.
Right on. Thank you, man. Adam, what do you like to leave us with? And would you like to rebuttal? He's hoping that you're not the only one who's there.
I will probably be Bobby's only friend there.
No, I got Chris and Brett coming too.
Like I said, I'll be Bobby's only friend there. And his wife will be there too. I'll still be his only friend.
Yeah.
But
no, I got some great panelists and they're all my friends.
No, we're going to have a good time. I'm getting ready to head out to Champs next week. We're doing Champs in Vegas. And that's my last hurrah. And then probably not the day to talk about it, but then I'm going in for a little bit of surgery on the 4th.
Ooh.
And then we're getting ready for Lake of the Ozarks. So that's what's up in my world. Nothing exciting.
Right
Adam, everything okay?
Oh yeah, just some neck surgery. I had my back about 4 months ago.
Getting the head just taken all the way off, or
yeah,
I heard out in Vegas. I heard out in Vegas they'll straighten your back right out.
Yeah, they will.
I heard you were going in for a penis reduction.
I am. They're gonna do 2 things.
Oh yeah.
That's what I heard, man. A penis reduction, man. Come on, tell the truth.
I'm sure Deb told you it was just too big.
Hey now.
So, hey, Jim,
Yes.
Would you like to leave us with anything? Any?
I could do a quick song. No, I'm
Sure.
kidding. No, I just, great show, everybody. Good seeing everyone. Entheo Fest, September 19th.
Right on. Hey, Kevin, since you stuck it out with us, man. Any final words before we cut out for the night?
No, I mean, it was really cool being on with y'all. I mean, a lot of y'all I've known for a long, long time, since the beginning of a lot of days. I mean, pretty much everybody. And y'all, good luck on everything you're doing, man.
Awesome.
Good seeing you.
Can I say one more
go ahead.
Quick
Go ahead, man. Yeah, of course.
I appreciate being adopted Michigander. I don't, I only stay here, live here part-time, but I appreciate I've been embraced by everybody here in Michigan, and especially you guys. So I really appreciate that, because you guys have made a difference in this cannabis movement. You guys, this Michigan stands out when it comes to having some great cannabis and great extracts and CBD and products. You guys stand out. Trust me, and it's the love and the passion that you guys put into it. And I think it's because a lot of you guys and what you guys have stood for all these years is why people are using the guidelines that you guys have established and the high quality. So I want to thank you guys for that.
Very nice, man. Thank you. Hey, Anthony, you want any final words before we wrap up?
Well, I hope to see as many people smoking joints here on Saturday as possible. And it's 9444 Main Street and Whitmore Lake. No charge for the concert. We have Carter coming up out of Nashville. So, amazing up and coming.
You got to buy 3 drinks an hour or you get asked to leave.
You must vacate the lake.
I don't have that policy anymore.
Okay.
Anymore.
So, Rick, you want to wrap us up?
I sure do. Look, there's a lot of changes going on in the cannabis industry. We've seen national cannabis alteration proposals made by congressional representatives. We're facing charges against caregivers here municipally. We are in the middle of a summer break, but we're still hearing rumors that the MCMA and their ilk are trying to seduce lawmakers to support changes to the caregiver program. But we are seeing, as we reported here today, some progress with boycotts. Our list of no changes businesses is up to 300. It's amazing what kind of support we've gotten here. But in the midst of all the festivals and all the fun and all the freakouts and the ankle deep water music parties Anthony's throwing, let's just remember that there's a purpose to it all. And don't forget those who are unwell. Don't forget those that can't join us. And remember that each one of us fights for something bigger than ourselves.
Right on. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Jazz Cabbage Cafe. Thanks for being on. We'll be back again next week. Another great show. See you guys.
Appreciate you.
Jazz Cabbage.